The arrival of the UNS Resolute. The void shuddered. Sensors across the Orion arm flared alive as an anomaly rippled through subspace, an energy signature not seen in over 5 centuries. Fleets scrambled, comm channels roared to life, and ancient fears stirred from slumber. From the dark between stars, something vast emerged, an angular titan of iron and light, scarred by ages, yet unmistakably alive. The UNS Resolute had returned. In the War of the Suns, humanity had vanished, taking their fleets and fury with them. Their worlds fell silent, their gates sealed. For generations, the galaxy whispered of them as ghosts, bringers of fire who had dared challenge the united species and vanished into legend. Most dismissed them as myth. But myths don't cast shadows across the stars. Now, a single Terran dreadnought hovered over the edge of Council space, dwarfing every ship within sight. Its armor gleamed with pale blue veins of plasma, and along its hull, a nameplate glimmered faintly through cosmic dust, Resolute. In the command cradle of the Zelther Dominion's frontier fleet, Admiral Vexhai stared at the readings in disbelief. "Confirm identity," he hissed. His sensor officer trembled. "Confirmed, Admiral. Ancient Terran transponder. Authentication code, genuine." The bridge fell silent. Every officer knew the tales. Their grandparents' had fought in the human wars. No one expected one of their godlike warships to reappear. "They're hailing us," the comms officer whispered. Vexhai's eyes narrowed. On screen, a woman appeared, human, tall and steady, with dark hair bound behind a silver collar. Her uniform bore no sigil of conquest, only the faded emblem of Earth's sunburst crest. "I am Captain Elara Morgan of the United Nations ship Resolute," she said, her voice calm but edged with exhaustion. "We come seeking peaceful contact with the Galactic Council. We request dialogue, not war." Her tone was steady, but beneath it lay something older, resolve hardened by exile. Around Vexhai, his bridge officers shifted uneasily. "A trick," one muttered. "A test of strength." Another snarled, "The humans left scorched worlds behind them. They don't ask for peace, they dictate it." Vexhai's mandibles twitched. Fear had a long memory. "Raise shields. Prepare batteries, but hold fire." The human captain seemed to sense their tension. "We bear no ill will," she continued. "We return not as conquerors, but as emissaries. The past is not forgotten, but neither is the hope of peace." Her words carried across the void, but peace rarely finds willing ears in a galaxy shaped by old wounds. The Zelther fleet's rear admiral, brash and fearful, acted before orders came. A barrage of plasma lances erupted from formation, green fire lashing toward the Resolute. The human ship didn't move. Its shield shimmered, bending light, absorbing the impact like a stone beneath rain. Not a single Terran gun returned fire. On the bridge, Captain Elara's hands gripped the railing. "Status. Shields stable. No casualties." Her first officer's eyes burned. "We could wipe them out." Elara shook her head. "Not today. Not like this." Back aboard his flagship, Vexhai stood frozen, humiliated by his subordinates' rashness. The human ship could have destroyed them all in seconds, and yet it hadn't. Mercy, not vengeance. That frightened him more than any weapon. He sent a final order: cease fire. Maintain formation. No further aggression. The void fell silent once more. Across 1,000 networks, the footage spread, grainy images of a colossal Terran dreadnought deflecting a fleet's fury with effortless grace. The galaxy trembled. Old alliances stirred. Traitors, smugglers, and soldiers whispered the same phrase. "A human ship has returned." On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elara watched the stars turn, her reflection ghosting across the viewport. Her crew stood behind her, silent, awaiting her command. "Mark our position," she said quietly. "Transmit once more. They must know why we came." "Aye, Captain." "Transmission open." She spoke into the endless dark, her voice steady as steel. "We are humanity. We have not forgotten you. And we do not come in anger." Her words vanished into the void. But somewhere, deep within the galactic net, echoes awoke, echoes that would not sleep again. For the first time in 5 centuries, a human voice had spoken among the stars. And the galaxy listened. Echoes of the old war. The galaxy had forgotten the sound of a human voice. Now, it echoed across every starnet, stirring memories buried in ash. From the high spire of the Galactic Council, ambassadors of 100 worlds gathered beneath the glow of crystalline skylights. Voices clashed in a storm of fear and fury. A Terran dreadnought has breached Council space. They swore they'd never return. If one ship still exists, what of the others? At the center of the chamber, Speaker Thalen raised a trembling hand. Order! We must not fall to panic. One ship does not make an empire. Yet even his calm words rang hollow. Every civilization remembered the old stories, the solar wars, the fall of 10,000 fleets, the day humanity burned half the Orion Arm to halt a siege. Humanity had fought like no other. They built no gods, sought no thrones. They simply refused to kneel. And when the galaxy united against them, they vanished, sealing their gates, erasing their trails, leaving only wreckage and silence. Some said they destroyed themselves. Others whispered they had fled beyond the rim, vowing to return when the stars were ready to listen. Now, they had kept their promise. Across the void, aboard the UNS Resolute, Captain Elara Morgan stood before the holotable, watching ancient records replay. Maps flared, battles from centuries past, marked by bright scars of loss. Her first officer, Lieutenant Terran, an uplifted synthborn, studied her expression. Do you think they remember the truth? Elara shook her head. No one remembers truth. Only fear. The old war had not been one of conquest. Humanity had fought because the Council sought to chain them, to enforce unity through obedience. Earth had refused. Freedom had a cost, and humanity paid it in blood and exile. Now, returning to a galaxy built atop that silence, Elara bore a message, one her ancestors had sworn to deliver: we seek peace, not penance. But peace demanded trust, and trust was the rarest element in the stars. On the frontier, Admiral Vexhi's fleet drifted in uneasy orbit. His officers argued in hushed tones, the tension sharp enough to slice through armor. They'll summon the old gods of war, one hissed. The humans will bring ruin again. Another replied, if they wished war, we would already be vapor. Vexhi said nothing. He stood at the viewport, watching the human ship in silent orbit, its hull reflecting the faint light of a dying sun. There was beauty in its design, brutal, efficient, unyielding. A monument to survival. He remembered the stories from his broodmother, how humans fought even when surrounded, how they shielded their allies, even enemies, from annihilation. How they refused to bow. Vexhi clenched his fists. Fear blinds reason, he muttered. If we misjudge them again, history will burn anew. A calm beacon pulsed. The Council demanded action. Arm the fleets. Secure the borders. Prepare for war. But in Vexhi's mind, another voice whispered, not one of duty, but of curiosity. What if they came not to destroy, but to remind? Elsewhere, in the shadowed vaults of the Council's archive moons, a scholar uncovered fragments long sealed, transmissions from the last days of the old war. In flickering holograms, human commanders pleaded for ceasefire, not conquest. Their voices were weary, not wrathful. The scholar watched in awe. We were wrong, she whispered. They didn't flee. They spared us. But the truth was dangerous. And in the halls of power, truth often died first. On the Resolute, Elara stood beneath the stars, gazing through the panoramic dome. Her crew murmured behind her, tension wrapped tight as steel wire. They'd been trained for diplomacy, yet surrounded by fleets with guns drawn. Captain, Terran said quietly, what if they never believe us? Elara's eyes hardened. Then we show them. She turned to the console, fingers gliding across the controls. Prepare the archives. If they won't hear our words, they'll see our history. In the silence of deep space, a human dreadnought began to transmit, not warnings, not threats, but truth. The data carried echoes of battlefields where humans stood beside alien allies, not above them. Images of soldiers shielding refugees. Medics saving enemies. Engineers rebuilding worlds shattered by war. Across the galaxy, those who watched were forced to ask, had we feared monsters or misjudged martyrs? And in the council chambers, the speaker whispered, "Perhaps the war we dread never truly ended." The echoes had awakened. The choice was coming. The spark becomes flame. For 3 cycles, the UNS Resolute held its orbit in silence. No threats, no demands, only transmissions of truth, cast like lanterns into a sea of fear. But fear is a stubborn current, and the galaxy had drifted too far from trust. Whispers hardened into warnings. Warnings became orders. And orders birthed war. From the Council's military bastion, the Grand Armada assembled, a force unseen since the ancient wars. Hundreds of species, tens of thousands of ships, all united under one banner, contained the human threat. Admiral Vexhai stood on his flagship's bridge, heart heavy. His fleet had doubled overnight. War banners unfurled across the void like scars reopening. Every comm from the Council echoed the same decree. The human ship must not leave the Orion arm. Engage if necessary. Eliminate if possible. But in his chest, doubt coiled tighter than duty. "They haven't fired a shot," he muttered. "And we prepare a storm." His aide's response was bitter. "They're humans. A single ship ended empires once." Vexhai gazed toward the distant silhouette of the Resolute. Its hull glowed faintly against the starlight, scarred but steady. It looked less like a weapon and more like a survivor refusing to bow. "They're not here to conquer," he thought. "They're here to remind us who we were." And yet, the fleets advanced. Aboard the Resolute, alarms bloomed across every screen. Lieutenant Coran's voice shook. Multiple warp signatures, hundreds of them, closing fast. Captain Elara Morgan's eyes narrowed. "Formation. They're surrounding us, ma'am. No response to our signals." Elara exhaled slowly. The weight of history pressed down on her shoulders. They had crossed light centuries to offer peace, and been met by the same fear that had once burned Earth's skies. "Bring defense grid online," she ordered. "Non-lethal protocols only. We hold. We do not strike first." Her crew obeyed, silent and grim. They knew what this meant. The Resolute could fight entire armadas alone, but mercy was a harder battle. In a flash of blue fire, the first salvo came. Plasma storms rained down, detonating against the human ship's shields. The void filled with light. The Resolute shuddered but held firm, armor glowing red from the heat. Elara gripped the railing. Status: shields at 87. No breaches. Return fire, disabling only. Target weapons, not lives. The Resolute answered, not with vengeance, but precision. Beams lanced outward, cutting engines, severing weapons, disabling ships in clean surgical arcs. No debris, no casualties, only silence where fleets once stood ready. Across comms, alien captains shouted in disbelief. "They're sparing us. They could have ended us in seconds." But fear twisted mercy into myth. Rumors spread faster than truth. "The humans toy with us. They're gathering strength." On the Council's encrypted channels, a new voice rose, cold, ruthless, and unseen. It belonged to Admiral Sereth, commander of the Dominion's shadow fleets. "We can't afford restraint. They're testing our resolve. End them before they summon more." Without approval, Sereth launched the Oblivion Lance, a forbidden weapon born from the ruins of the old war. Its payload streaked through subspace, tearing toward the Resolute, not at the ship, but at a nearby colony world. Elara saw it too late. Impact in 12 seconds. Coran shouted. Her mind raced. "They're not targeting us, they're framing us. Divert main reactor. Full thrust intercept." The Resolute surged forward, engine screaming as it interposed itself between the weapon and the colony. Light consumed the sky as the lance struck. Shields flared, then shattered. Shockwaves rippled through the void. The colony lived. The Resolute did not escape unscathed. Fires tore across its hull. Systems flickered. Life support strained. Elara pulled herself upright through smoke. "Report. Severe damage, Captain. Casualties, dozens." On Council channels, a twisted narrative emerged. The humans launched the Lance. "They've attacked civilian worlds." The truth drowned in the tide. Admiral Vexhai watched the chaos unfold, fury rising in his throat. He knew that weapon, no human signature, only Dominion tech. "Who gave that order?" he demanded. No one answered. Only silence, and the growing roar of war. On the Resolute, amid the flames, Elara whispered, "They wanted proof of our intent. Now they'll have it." Her eyes hardened as the stars burned red around them. "Transmit everything. They will see who struck first." The ship's battered core flared to life, carrying one last message across the stars. Humanity will not bow. Humanity will not break. And somewhere, in the Council's trembling heart, Admiral Vexhai felt the truth. The spark had become a flame. The last beacon of humanity. The UNS Resolute drifted through the void, scarred, burning, yet unbroken. Fires crawled along its hull, leaking sparks into the cold dark, like the fading breath of a dying star. Inside, alarms howled, crew shouted, bulkhead sealed. But at its heart, the bridge still held. Captain Elara Morgan stood among smoke and ruin, one hand pressed against a console, the other clutching her chest where blood soaked her uniform. The impact from the Oblivion lance had torn through every deck, but the colony behind them still lived. She'd kept her word. They'd defended the innocent, even those who called them enemy. "Status," she rasped. Lieutenant Coron's synthetic frame sparked, one arm severed, eyes dimming. "Shields gone. Core containment failing. We've lost main drives. We're—" He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "We're still here." Elara looked out the viewport. The Grand Armada surrounded them, an ocean of ships, weapons charged, hungry for vengeance. Across encrypted channels, the Council shouted for surrender, others for execution. None trusted what they saw. And then, in the midst of that silence, Admiral Vexhai's voice cut through. "Hold your fire." His fleet paused. Across the stars, thousands of ships hesitated, some from confusion, others from awe. Vexhai stared at the battered Terran vessel on his holoscreen, its shattered hull glowing like a wounded titan refusing to kneel. "They took the lance for us," he whispered. "They saved a world that feared them." His aide stared in disbelief. "They're tricking us." "No," Vexhai interrupted. "They're reminding us." On the Resolute's bridge, Elara slumped against her chair, strength fading. "Captain," Coron said softly, "the reactor's unstable. If we can't contain it, the explosion will consume everything in this sector." She exhaled. "Then we choose how it ends." With trembling fingers, she accessed the final failsafe, Project Dawn. A data package built by her ancestors, a record of humanity's truth, sealed since the day they vanished. It held archives, memories, pleas for peace, proof of who they truly were. She activated it. "Transmit to all channels," she whispered. "No encryption. Let every world see." Coron nodded, voice cracking. "Message ready." Elara lifted her head, eyes bright through the smoke. "To all who can hear me, humanity does not seek your war. We have crossed centuries not to conquer, but to return. We remember the day the galaxy turned its guns upon us, and we remember why we stayed our own. Fear built these walls. Let truth tear them down." The transmission spread like dawn breaking across darkness, racing through relays, bouncing between worlds, reaching colonies and capitals alike. Billions watched in silence as ancient footage filled their screens. Humans rebuilding alien cities, soldiers shielding the weak, medics saving their foes, children standing beneath banners of peace. For the first time in half a millennium, the galaxy saw not monsters, but mirrors. On Vexhai's bridge, officers stared, eyes wide. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Other fleets followed, hesitantly, as truth rippled through ranks like gravity itself. But the Resolute was dying. "Core breach in 90 seconds, Coron warned. Elara smiled weakly. "Then let's give them a memory they won't forget." She keyed the final command. The ship's engines roared to life one last time, pivoting toward the heart of the Armada, not to strike, but to shield. Energy built within the core, light spilling through every crack, illuminating the fleet like sunrise. Coron saluted. "It's been an honor, Captain." Her voice softened. "For all of us." The UNS Resolute exploded in silence, a star reborn. The shockwave washed over the fleets, gentle, not destructive, as if the universe itself mourned the loss. The human ship's final act was not vengeance, but protection, the light of sacrifice cast across 1,000 hulls. In the aftermath, the council convened. Vexhai stood before them, voice steady. They came bearing truth, and we answered with fear. Let this not be their end, but our beginning. A monument was raised in orbit of the saved colony. Here stood the UNS Resolute, last beacon of humanity. She fought not to conquer, but to remind us who we could be. Years later, in the quiet edge of the Perseus Veil, a long-dormant relay flickered to life. A new signal whispered through the dark, ancient, human, and proud. This is the UNS Vanguard. We received your message. The stars trembled once more, and hope, human, fierce, and eternal, was reborn.